So in our last intermediate tutorial, we discussed Superman. So today we're going to discuss an alternate entrance to Superman, and probably one of my favorite entrances. It's going to be a thread through from Jamilla. If you guys are unfamiliar with Jamilla at this point in your pole journey, go ahead and go to our beginner library and scroll on down to July. In the tutorials from July, I go through a Jamilla breakdown. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you a very simplified breakdown of what this thread through will look like from the floor. If you try it on the floor, it's going to feel way more awkward and uncomfortable than it's going to feel up in the air, but it can help to kind of get it in your mind and body first. So as you can see here, I'm lying on the floor and I'm kind of mimicking a Jamilla position with my legs open in a straddle and my top hand up on the pole. So to get to my desired position, I'm going to bow out my top arm or internally rotate it so I can point that elbow up and outward. That's going to create a nice wide window for me to then bend that same side leg, poking that knee through the window. As my knee is coming through, I'm going to begin to rotate my hips down to face towards the floor and pulling my legs closed or together, bringing my knees together. As my hips begin to rotate down, I'll find more room to pull my leg fully through the window and to get that foot all the way through. Once my hips are totally facing the floor and my knees are together, I'm going to extend that leg so my legs are parallel. And then as you can see, I'm mimicking my Superman position here. Here's just another angle so you can see I'm internally rotating and bending that top arm to create a wider window. I'm pulling that top leg through the window. There's a slight internal rotation in order to get that knee through the window. I begin rotating my hips down to face the floor, and as those hips rotate, I'm then going to begin pulling my knee downward as I close my knees. That's going to allow me to pull the rest of my leg and my foot through the window. And then once my knees are together, I'm extending my legs to come into my Superman. Okay, let's talk about it up in the air now. So we're going to go from a cradle and Jamilla. So you're starting with your outside hand at about head or chin level, and you're leaning down to place your bottom hand in a martini grip. From your split grip, you're going to lift your inside leg to bring the top of the thigh to the pole, and you're going to rock onto the top of both thighs coming into your cradle. You can slide your hands down, adjust your hands as you need to so that your hips are about midway between your hands. That's where you're going to find that good balance point. From here, to come into your Jamilla, you're going to lean down onto your bottom arm, but super important, make sure you're not locking that bottom arm out. You're keeping a slight bend in that arm to protect the elbow. You're pushing through the top hand and leaning your torso back. Your chest is rotating up to face the ceiling, and you're opening your legs up into a straddle. Okay, we've made it to our Jamilla. Let's talk about this thread through now. So same steps like we talked about on the floor. I'm bowing that top elbow out, widening that window so I can bend the same side leg or my top leg, pulling that knee through the window. As I rotate to face my hips towards the floor, I begin pulling my knee down, bringing my knees together and clearing that foot through the window, then extending that leg, squeezing my thighs around the pole, and lastly engaging my glutes to press my hips down, release my bottom hand coming into my Superman. Let's talk about one really important point to make this transition look and feel smooth, and that's going to be a wrist rotation of your top or your outside hand. So, as you can see here, my hand is on the pole, just as I would have it in my cradle. Now watch as I rotate my wrist around towards my face. Once I find that wrist rotation, I can then push through that top hand to press my chest down and back, pushing it away from the pole. Now let's talk about how that's going to relate to this transition. So I'm coming back into my cradle. Here's where the wrist twist will happen. I'm rotating my wrist around to the same side of the pole as my head. This way I can push into the pole to press my torso down and back. This will allow me to open up into my straddle a lot more easily and find a nice balance in my Jamilla. A nice balance in the Jamilla is going to make for a nice, smooth, and easy transition as you thread through. Now you want to lean your weight down onto your bottom hand and onto the top of that inside thigh. If you feel secure in those two gripping points, then your thread through will be a piece of cake. So you might have to slide that bottom hand down a little bit more in order to feel comfortable threading that leg through. Again, when you're ready, you're bowing that top arm out to create a wider window, threading that knee through the window as your hips rotate down to face the floor, bringing your knees together as your foot clears the window and extending your legs, pressing your hips down and releasing the bottom hand to find yourself in your Superman. One last little tip I'd like to mention. Notice as I'm threading my knee through, I'm actually sliding that top hand down. That's going to allow me to bring that hand, the top hand, closer to my hips so that my hips can pike up towards the ceiling. With that hip pike, it's going to be easier to clear that foot through that window for those of you that may be struggling to get that foot all the way through. So just one more time, I'm bowing that elbow outward and I begin to thread that knee through, and as I'm threading it through, I'm sliding my top hand down. I'm allowing my weight to fall down onto that bottom arm as I rotate my hips down to face the floor. That should help you to get that leg through the window completely. And one last time I'll show you on spin pole just so you can see a few different angles.